Hey everyone. You know what I think we should talk about? Something that's just everywhere these days, and it's like, honestly, kind of worrying. Logical fallacies.
Oh, tell me about it. It's like they throw a wrench right into your critical thinking gears.
Right. They make these bogus arguments sound kind of legit, you know?
Absolutely.
So we're doing this deep dive into like a handbook of logical fallacies.
I love that. It's like a toolkit for your brain.
It really is. It helps you spot those misleading arguments and all that. It helps you be a more critical thinker.
Which, let's be honest, we could all use a little bit more of in this day and age.
For real! The world is full of it. Okay, but like, before we really jump into all the nitty-gritty, can we just, like, what even is a logical fallacy?
Yeah, so simply put, it's an error in reasoning that makes an argument invalid. You know, it might seem right at first, but then you look a little deeper, you're like, wait, this logic isn't holding up.
And the thing is, it's not always some evil mastermind, right?
Right.
Sometimes it's just people who don't even realize they're using these fallacies.
All the time.
Which I guess makes it even more important that we know how to spot them.
Absolutely. That's why we're here, shining a light on these common fallacies. We're going to look at a few really interesting ones from this handbook. You'll be surprised how often you encounter these things.
Okay, let's jump right in then. First up, the ambiguous collective. This one, have you noticed how often people say we, us, the people?
Oh, all the time. It's like this sneaky tactic to blur the lines, you know, to make it hard to tell who's responsible or who's benefiting.
It's like that saying, we decided.
Exactly.
Like when nobody actually remembers making the decision.
Totally. Or it's what the people want. Okay, but who are the people?
Right.
It's often left really vague, which is a huge red flag.
Totally. You know, the handbook gives this really powerful example about the South Africa sanctions way back when.
Oh, right.
People would say, we should support the sanctions, like, assuming everyone agreed. But we, in that case, often silenced the people who didn't agree.
Exactly. And ignored the consequences those sanctions had on regular people, you know.
Totally.
It's really dangerous when vague language lets people off the hook.
Okay, so anytime you hear those sweeping statements, right?
Absolutely.
The people or the nation, you've got to remember this fallacy.
Remember the ambiguous collective and ask yourself, who are they really talking about?
Yes. And who are they not talking about? Don't let people get away with using we when they really mean me.
100%.
Okay, speaking of manipulative tactics, let's talk argument from intimidation.
Ooh, this one's insidious.
Yeah.
It really plays on our desire to fit in.
This one really gets under my skin, though, because it's like that friend who's like, you're not really going to wear that, are you? And you're like suddenly second-guessing your whole outfit.
Right.
And it's not even that you care about their fashion opinion.
It's the judgment. Right?
It's the judgment.
Yeah.
The handbook gives an example. It says, like, someone questioning your courage. Like, oh, I thought you were braver than that.
That's a way to shut you down, you know? Make you feel like you have to agree with them.
Classic bully behavior.
It is. And it's like even worse when there's a power dynamic at play. Imagine your boss pulling this in a meeting.
Ugh. Agree with me or no promotion for you.
Exactly.
Not cool. So, like, how do we fight this? Because I'm all about standing up to bullies.
It really comes down to knowing your own worth.
Yeah.
You know, like you are valuable, you're intelligent, and those things aren't up for debate. So don't be afraid to just be like, okay, well, what do you mean by that? Can you like explain that a little more? You know, force them to like back up their claims with logic instead of these like intimidation tactics.
Don't let them silence you. Okay, get ready to have your mind blown though, because this next one it's a wild one. It's the elephant repellent fallacy, and it's just as outlandish as it sounds.
Okay, so imagine, if you will, someone trying to sell you, I don't know, like a magic spray to keep elephants away.
And they're like, see? No elephants around here, proof.
Yeah. But what if there were never any elephants to begin with, right?
Exactly.
That's this fallacy in a nutshell. It's making a connection between two things that might not even be related, you know?
It's everywhere, though, this one.
Oh, it's everywhere.
Like when politicians take credit for, like, a good economy.
The classic.
And, like, totally ignoring all the other factors.
Yeah.
Global trends, hardworking people, all that.
It's like we want that easy answer, right?
Totally.
We want to think there's a quick fix for these complicated problems.
It's like putting like a Band-Aid on a broken leg. You're like, there, fixed it. But you haven't really, have you?
Not even close. And that's where it gets like kind of dangerous, right? Because it prevents us from finding real solutions. We think we have the answer, that magic spray.
Right.
And we stop looking for those like, maybe more difficult but more effective approaches.
So next time someone tries to sell you on a miracle cure, remember this. Remember the elephant repellent.
Ask yourself, are there other things at play here? Like, what else is going on that they're not talking about?
Yeah. Don't just take things at face value.
Think critically. Don't be afraid to, like, dig a little deeper.
Okay, speaking of looking beneath the surface, this next fallacy is all about how we see or, like, don't see each other. And it's a big one.
It is.
Okay, this one's called pigeonholing. You know that feeling when someone tries to put you in a box based on just one label?
Oh, yeah, it's the ultimate conversation killer.
It is.
You're a liberal, you're a conservative, you're this, you're that. There's no nuance, no common ground. It's just, like, gone.
And the scary thing is, this has been used throughout history to justify some really, really awful things.
Oh, absolutely.
The handbook even talks about how, like, tyrants, they've used this kind of name calling, to dehumanize their opponents.
Right. It's like if you reduce someone to a label,
it's easier to just dismiss them.
Then you don't have to think about them as a complex person with feelings and thoughts and experiences.
So how do we break free from this one? Because I am all about different perspectives and, like, having those tough conversations.
It starts with us. We all have biases, things that cloud our judgment, but we have to acknowledge them. We have to be willing to challenge our own assumptions if we're going to break down those barriers,
It's about remembering there's a real person on the other side of that screen, of that argument.
100%. And when we encounter it in the wild, call it out.
Yes.
Don't let people reduce these complex issues down to these, like, meaningless labels.
You can say, hey, I think you're, like, oversimplifying things. There's a lot more to this.
Exactly. Challenge them to, like, engage with the bigger picture.
Yes. Engage in a more meaningful way.
Yes.
Speaking of the bigger picture, sometimes we get so caught up in, like, what could be that we totally forget what has been.
Right.
And that leads us to ignoring historical example. This one's relatable. It's like that bitch you keep trying to make, even though, like, every time it's a disaster.
Oh, it's like the definition of insanity, right? Doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results.
It's more than just burnt dinners, though, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Like, this fallacy pops up in some pretty important situations.
It does, yeah. The handbook connects it to, like, all sorts of societal issues.
Right.
Pointing out how, like, if we ignore history, we're basically doomed to just repeat the same mistakes, whether it's politics or economics or even, like, our own personal lives.
We're like, this time it'll be different. This time this crazy plan will totally work. But history's like, nah, I don't think so.
Right. History's got other plans, usually. And it's not like, just a bunch of dusty old stories. It's like a gold mine of human experience. You know what I mean?
Like, by understanding all that stuff that came before us that shaped how things are now, we can make smarter decisions about where we're going.
It's like that saying, those who can't remember the past are condemned to repeat it. Yeah,
exactly. Couldn't have said it better myself. So, like, next time you have to make a tough decision or someone's trying to, like, convince you of something, really think back. Has this been tried before? And if so, how'd that go last time?
So good. Okay, ready for our final fallacy? This one's a mouthful, but it's a fun one. It's the woodchuck fallacy.
Okay.
And yes, it involves those cute little groundhogs.
All right, let's hear it.
Okay. So picture this. A woodchuck. Just chucking wood all day long.
Okay.
And someone's like, how much wood would a woodchuck chuck if the woodchuck could chuck wood?
Like a tongue twister?
It is a tongue twister.
But it also, like, perfectly sums up this fallacy, which is basically we mistake something being possible for it being real.
Okay.
Just because we can imagine something, even if it sounds kind of logical, doesn't mean it would actually happen.
Right.
And the handbook gives this really great example from a book called The Market for Liberty. Have you read that one?
I haven't, no.
So the writers, they lay out this big elaborate vision of, like, this free market society, and it sounds good. It sounds really plausible, but it's all woodchuck thinking.
I see.
It's all hypothetical. Like, this would happen if, and that would happen if. But they don't actually have the evidence to back it up.
Because, it's like in a world with so much information out there, we have to be able to tell the difference, like between speculation, what could be, and, like, cold, hard facts.
Yes. Don't fall for the hype. So next time someone's making all these big claims about what would happen, remember this fallacy, remember the woodchuck.
Ask, but does it? Where's the proof?
Exactly. Look for the receipts. Don't just take their word for it.
Exactly.
Well, wow, we covered a lot of ground today. From the ambiguous collective, all sneaky and vague, to straight up intimidation tactics to, of course, the woodchuck. But the good news is, just by listening, you're already becoming a more critical thinker.
It's true. Yeah, you've got the tools now. You'll start spotting these fallacies everywhere. And remember, this is just the tip of the iceberg, really. There's so much more to logic and reasoning. It's fascinating stuff.
It's like we gave you this secret decoder ring to spot BS, and trust me, once you see it, you can't unsee it. You're going to start noticing these things everywhere, but that's good because that means you're becoming a more informed citizen.
100%.
A more discerning consumer of information.
That's what it's all about.
And a more confident thinker. And on that note, this has been an incredible deep dive. Until next time, keep those critical thinking caps on and don't let those fallacies win. Thanks for listening, everyone.